Okay, thank you. Welcome everybody to the September 19th regular Board of Education meeting. We've already been in an executive session, so we'll skip roll call at this point in time and move right into the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this time I need a motion to approve the agenda for this evening.
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
Been properly moved and seconded that we approve tonight's agenda. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Katz?
Yes. Okay, stands approved. The next thing we have is a couple of recognitions, and I'll let Ms. Mankins cover that.
If the board wants to go down front, I'll read the nomination. Would that work? Okay. So we do have two nominations or two people to be recognized this evening that were actually recognized just last night at dinner. First, our friend of public education and also an exemplary employee. So Steve Stolte is our friend of public education. I'm going to read the letter that we submitted. You can come on up. We'll make you stand and while I read it, and then I'll hand it off to you, Mr. Ferguson, if that's okay. It's a privilege to nominate Steve Stolte for the OSBA Friend of Public Education Award. Steve has been a remarkable advocate for Marysville schools, demonstrating unwavering dedication and making substantial contributions that have positively impacted students, educators, and the community at large. As a former Union County Commissioner and community member, Steve has consistently shown a deep commitment to public education through various initiatives and efforts. He has been actively involved in workforce development initiatives, fundraisers, school community task force, and community levy efforts. He has been integral in the development of Partners in Education Committee, the PI Committee, a group of business and community leaders dedicated to reviewing district finances and communicating to the larger community about the financial wellness of the school district. He has been instrumental in raising awareness about the challenges faced by our school and has successfully rallied community support to address these issues. His ability to inspire others to get involved and make a difference is truly commendable. He was instrumental in supporting the first ever advanced manufacturing STEM school in Ohio, known as the Marysville Early College High School. He assisted the district with building a strong connection with the Marysville Honda plant, which has led to a powerful partnership offering multiple career pathways in engineering and manufacturing. Additionally, he helped support the initiation of Marysville's Japanese language program, which is now the largest Japanese program in the state of Ohio. Our Board of Education is grateful to have Steve Stolte as an advocate and proudly nominates him for this recognition. There is no doubt that Steve is an exemplary community supporter as he serves on various committees and boards. With a grandchild in the district and a spouse who is a retired teacher, Steve's motivation to advocate for public education and support Marysville schools is unmatched. He has made a lasting difference in our community and continues to inspire others to support and value the importance of education. Thank you, Mr. Stolte. All right, our next recognition is Lynette Fott. It is with great excitement that we nominate Lynette Fott, the Human Resource Director at Marysville Exempted Village School District, for the OSBA Exemplary School Employee Award. For the past 15 years, Lynette has demonstrated a remarkable blend of qualities that embody the essence of excellence and dedication. It is my pleasure to highlight the outstanding attributes that make her a standout candidate for this accolade. Lynette is an invaluable and dedicated member of the district leadership team who takes pride in a job well done. She consistently takes initiative, tackles challenges head-on, and delivers exceptional results, setting a high standard for all team members. She is proactive problem solver. She is relentless in her pursuit to improve customer service and ensure Marysville employees are supported and valued. In addition to Lynette's drive and motivation, she possesses a kind and caring heart and a genuine sense of grace and positivity. She consistently shows empathy and understanding towards colleagues, fostering a supportive and inclusive work environment. Her friendly demeanor and approachable nature make her a valued confidant and mentor, enhancing team morale and collaboration. Lynette's commitment to Marysville is evident in every aspect of her work. Lynette works tirelessly, no matter the task, to support employees, advocating for insurance benefits, creating better employee systems, or supporting employees with unique needs. She approaches each situation with a solution-focused mindset. Her efficiency in handling complex HR matters and her ability to manage multiple responsibilities seamlessly showcase her exceptional organizational skills. In summary, Lynette Fott is not only a go-getter and highly efficient HR director, but also a kind and committed individual who enriches our workplace with her friendliness and genuine care. She has made significant contributions to our team and exemplifies the qualities we seek to celebrate with this recognition. Our Board of Education is proud and wholeheartedly recommends Lynette Fott for the OSBA Exemplary Employee Award, as she truly deserves this recognition for her exceptional performance and positive impact on our organization. Thank you. Do they need to take any action on this? The next recognition is Employee of the Month. So Jason Caldwell, will you come on up? Those of you who don't know Jason serves at the high school and is honored tonight as our classified employee. And I have the pleasure, Jason, of reading the comments that your peers made about you for this award. So it's actually kind of funny, I think. So Jason is always willing to help out whenever needed, whether it is setting a mousetrap and picking up the trapped mouse, which is equally important, right? Helping you move something in your classroom or cleaning up a bathroom or hallway mess. He always does it with a smile and an eagerness to help out. So congratulations, Jason, on your award and recognition. That's it, right? That's all.
Public.
Yes.
Okay, we're to the public participation, and I think we have at least one.
We have two guests from OSBA. I think we're going to start with
Okay.
Aaron. You can go to that mic right over there.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having us this evening. And my name is Aaron Hinchliff. I'm the Central Region Manager with the Ohio School Boards Association. OSBA aims to be the leading voice for public education in the state of Ohio, and we sincerely value your membership. I'd like to start by congratulating Steve, Lynette, and Jason. I think it's great that you all recognize your employees, and that means a lot. The heart of everything we do at OSBA is our students, and what you do as school board members to serve the students is truly an act of servant leadership. My role in the Central Region is to make sure all 14 counties have the resources that they need to govern efficiently and effectively. So my information has been shared. If you all have any questions as school board members, please reach out. Part of my role is to be here for you with any questions you have. If I'm not able to answer them, I'm more than happy to transfer them on to the team at OSBA. You'll be hearing a little bit more from me in a bit, but I would now like to turn it over to the president of the Ohio School Boards Association and school board member at Tuscarawas Valley, Ms. Sally Green.
Thank you, Aaron. It was a pleasure to be with you last night and to get to know you just a little bit better, and to just thank you personally, as I did for the service that you give for publication. I am a 19-year-old board member, 19-year servant board leader, and I understand what it takes to be a good board leader. The governance you need, the dedication, the commitment, and the work that you put into it. So I truly believe that you are the leaders of public education to help our students. And I would like to reiterate that with Aaron, that if you ever have a question or ever have a problem, reach out to us, because we can network and help you, and we value you, and that's why I'm here. But one of the things I would be remiss if I didn't say is thank you for coming to the conference last night. You had 2 great people, and then you had a 3rd one tonight. That is exceptional. Not very many people do that. And then we actually have a 4th in just a second. So you guys are on the ball and exemplary. It shows that your school is thriving, so great job. But Capitol Conference is November 10th through 12th. There's going to be exceptional speakers. There's 150 learning sessions. I would encourage each and every one of you to go. I think you can learn something and bring it back to your school district and help. So I thank you for allowing us to be here tonight, and I'm going to turn it back over to Aaron, who is going to talk about that 4th award.
Thank you, Sally. And if I didn't mention, I just started as the Central Region manager back in May. So I had a lot of pieces to piece together, and I sincerely apologize because I missed one very important recognition yesterday. One of your school board members, Jermaine Ferguson, attained the Aptitude Award, which is one of the components of the STAR Award that we give. So I'm going to share a little bit about the award, and then we'll present it to Jermaine this evening. OSBA's STAR Awards program highlights school board members' commitment and service to Ohio's students. There are 4 components: service, training, aptitude, and recognition. The Aptitude Award is given to school board members who demonstrate understanding and comprehension of a variety of board governance skills based on 6 leadership areas: vision, accountability, policy, community engagement, relationships, and advocacy. To receive this award, board members must receive an 80% or higher to pass, and it's offered each year, June through July. So fellow school board members, if you're interested in taking the assessment, it will be available next year. Completing all 4 components also makes you eligible for a Master School Board Member status. I've had the pleasure of working with Jermaine just for a couple months, and I can attest to the servant leader that he is. Anytime we have questions with the executive committee, he's there and present and very engaged. And it's been such a pleasure, and I sincerely look forward to working with you as we continue moving forward. But at this time, on behalf of the Ohio School Boards Association, Dr. Kathy McFarland, and our Board of Trustees, we would like to present you with this Aptitude Award.
And next we have Adrian Green.
Hi, my name is Adrienne Green. My address is 21655 Shirk Road in Marysville. And I spoke at the last meeting about the parent perspective of struggles and frustrations for the Raymond area Creekview students with transportation at the back to school time this year. Much of those struggles have continued into the early part of this month, and I've had numerous phone calls and emails with members of the Transportation Department administration and school board members. And as of yesterday, we've been advised of pending improvements for next week that should resolve many of the remaining issues. I look forward to seeing processes implemented for next year for a smoother back-to-school experience for our children. I'd like to reiterate the importance of communication with parents for transparency and partnership, along with the alignment of expectations as an opportunity for continued improvement. And I'm thankful for the hard work from the Transportation Department to improve the students' experience thus far. Thank you for all of your efforts.
Thank you. And now we're on to presentation for the Japanese exchange presentation.
Thank you so much for having us. My name is Maki Okamoto. I teach Japanese at ECHS and Banzo Middle School. So today we have two wonderful students presenting about their experience in Yorii, Japan. Then just to give you a little bit idea about Japanese exchange program. So this exchange program has established in 2015 thanks to the partnership between Marysville and town of Yorii, Japan. And the program not only creates opportunity to study in Japan or host students from Japan in Marysville, but also provide environment where students can foster friendship and appreciation of the value of international collaboration, understanding, and empathy. We take turns to send students and host students. So we sent 5 students to Yorii this past summer. It was a privilege to observe students' growth as a language learner and most importantly, as a global citizen. The Japanese exchange is such a unique experience because it promotes human connections and mutual understanding rather than going to the places to learn on the surface level. The program creates future leaders who can work locally or globally with global perspectives. So thank you so much for supporting the program, and thanks for listening to the speakers today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Konbanwa, watashi wa Anda-san toyu desu. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. Or translation, good evening. My name is Tolulape Anderson, and it is nice to meet you. This greeting is what I started almost all my conversations in Japan with. All it takes is a hello. That's what nearly every human connection begins with. This 12-day trip to Japan not only built my human connection around the world, but also my connection to Japanese culture. I started learning about Japan when I was in 3rd grade. My mom signed me up for a Japanese National Honor Society elementary program. From the first day, I knew I liked Japanese cultures and wanted to learn more. Looking back, I don't think I would have ever expected to travel to Japan, but thanks to our advisors Kaoru Sensei and Okamoto Sensei, as well as our friends in Yorii, a little 3rd grade girl's secret wish finally came true. Honestly, before we left for the trip, I was extremely nervous. I was scared of doing something wrong or saying the wrong thing or something going wrong in general. Even as our teachers prepared us for what to expect and know, I was scared that one wrong move could ruin something. However, instead of opting out of going, I persevered, overcame this anxiety, and went anyway. And honestly, I am so happy that I did. I would not trade my experience over the summer for anything. I proved to myself that I could do anything, from flipping someone in martial arts, to making flower arrangements, to giving speeches in a language that is not my first. Throughout the trip, I learned so much about people. I learned how humanity is similar, whether it be your next door neighbor or your sister city across the Pacific Ocean. During our time in Yori, we experienced many things, but not necessarily all of them were new. I experienced a Japanese steakhouse with my host family, browsing and checking out library books, walking through art galleries, and even a band class that is similar to my own. They also value the same ideas and work to come up with solutions that the world shares. On our first day, we went to an environmental waste facility where they gave us a presentation on how the system worked and its positive impact on the environment, along with encouraging us to be active planet protectors in our communities. These things that tie humanity together are how the world stays connected, and by traveling to Japan, our group worked to strengthen those ties directly. We formed bonds with people whom we would never have met without this program. The members of my host family were some of the kindest people I have ever met. My host mom and dad picked me up and dropped me off at City Hall on time every single day. Along with making me breakfast and dinner, they always made an effort to have something new for me to try, even if it was outside their normal habits. They were so thoughtful and patient. When I struggled to say something, my host sisters would always reteach it until I finally got it. I was provided everything I ever needed. My family took care of me on the night I got sick. They took me on a road trip to a famous Japanese shrine called Nikotoshogu, where we toured the grounds. I even got to do karaoke with them. But in Japan, I got to bond with a lot more people than just my host family. Our group traveled to 3 different middle schools to see what school life is like there. We talked to, interacted with, and played games with the students there while learning about the culture. It also helped me realize the importance of our school district hosting them when one of the students recognized me from her exchange trip here. They were able to make a positive impact on my perception of Japan, and I was able to make an impact on their perception of America. Now to get philosophical. Does anyone know the meaning of life? Some argue that it's people change people. But this trip taught me a more concise perspective. It's that people teach people. For every interaction, from meeting someone to the last time you ever see them, teaches both parties something new. This trip emphasized that for me. As I stated earlier, I was so anxious about the trip and messing something up. When I got to Japan, though, one of the first conversations I had with my host family was that we would teach each other. From me teaching them American culture to them teaching me Japanese culture. This one conversation eased so much of my fear. I finally realized that learning about cultures is a two-way street. English can be just as hard for them as Japanese is for us. It is the work that both sides put in that bridges that gap. All of this made me feel less alone. The work, time, and effort I have put in over the last few years is only half of the equation. Other people, whether it be my classmate working right next to me or on the other side of the world, have been working towards the same goal, to become a more connected and leaders of a united world. Thank you, or arigato gozaimasu.
はじめまして、Vinnyと申します。Thank you for having me. My name is Vincent Ruane. I am a junior at the Marysville Early College High School. I will start my speech. Traveling to Yori is the most unique experience I've ever had. I could talk about the fun activities and interesting food, but there is so much more to this trip than that. My teachers have asked deep questions to help me put my feelings into words. Firstly, I was pleasantly surprised by the quality of interactions I had. I was so worried that because I'm not fluent in Japanese, it would be overwhelming. But in reality, every conversation, no matter how grammatically incorrect I was, I felt a sense of improvement and growth. But yet, by the end of the trip, I wasn't so worried about making my farewell speech and more confident that it would come to me. I ended up talking in front of multiple important officials involved with Yori, and I did well. This trip also had me feeling inspired in multiple ways. I was inspired to learn more so that I could return to Japan with more experience under my belt and be more independent. I also want to go to college in order to study architecture, and I was very impressed with the buildings that I saw. I can draw similarities and differences between architectural styles in America and Japan. I'm hoping to maybe minor in Japanese, that way I can have potential connections with architectural businesses in Japan and maybe have other like business-related trips to return. There were also a lot of similarities and differences between school life in Japan and my school life in America. Many of the classes are similar, like math and science and language classes. One large difference is the student culture in relation to the building. For example, in Japan, students are important to cleaning rather than placing that job solely on janitors. I also found it interesting that shoes are worn specifically for inside the school, and shoes that are used outside are only for outside. I also feel like I understand much more than I did before about language learning. Before Japan, I knew only what I was taught in the class. Going to the country of the language I was learning is an entirely different world. I learned how to use my limited knowledge in more diverse ways to convey a certain message. I can specifically remember a long conversation I had with my host's mother. It was a warm morning, and we took the family's dog named Chaturo for a walk. We touched on many topics, such as my school, what I want to do after school, some of my hobbies and interests, my host siblings' interests, and just whatever came to mind. It was fun, but also challenging. Having such a personal conversation in another language really invokes really deep thought, and I think it's really cool to experience deep connection with someone who speaks a completely different language on the other side of the earth. I think it's really unique that I could just meet them in general. There are also a lot of things to learn about humanity and this world as a whole. Even with the language barrier, you will quickly learn that body language and a simple smile will go a very long way. In Japanese schools, the students eat in their classrooms, and the meals are served by fellow classmates. It was nice to be a part of an experience that I've never had before. As I ate, I talked with others and found plenty of common interests. We talked about music and sports, other hobbies like art, skateboarding. I found another student who surprisingly liked some metal bands, which I'm not familiar with, but I think it was cool to see some of like American music to be known. Such an impactful experience will also translate into other settings. For example, the workplace. Maybe you have to collaborate with other coworkers, have a difficult conversation with your boss, or make a presentation to important people. Those are all situations that will get you out of your comfort space. However, going to Japan wasn't a step out of my circle. It was more like being launched out of a cannon into an uncomfortable spot. You get to learn to get comfortable with the uncomfortable, and the whole trip has made such a difference in my life. Lastly, I would like to thank the City of Marysville, the Board of Education for Marysville Schools, and Union County for the partnership between Yori and Marysville. I would love to see this program grow in the future and inspire more people to study Japanese. I personally am hoping to host for the next time that students from Yori come to Marysville. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much. I just had a couple of questions. How long did you study Japanese before you went over, either one of you?
I finished Japanese 4 just before going. I finished Japanese 4 in my sophomore year. So I started Japanese 1 in 8th grade, Japanese 2 and 3 freshman year, and then I finished with 4.
Before going, I just also finished Japanese 4. I started in 8th grade as well, and then finished Japanese 4 by the end of my junior year.
Mm-hmm. And one more question. How were you able to fund this? Do you have sponsors or your family or?
Many of the expenses were paid for out of our own pocket, and then we were supported once we got there.
Cool.
I personally just saved up for a couple of years working a job, and we were, I don't think we didn't do any like specific fundraising activities, but I think maybe for the future that'd be a great idea. It would help a lot of people to allow them to just have the experience in general.
So you had this as a goal for many years, 2 or 3 anyway?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. It was excellent. Hajimemashite. So I'd like to use a few words of Japanese that I do know. You did a wonderful job. Your presentation was wonderful, and I'm so happy that you guys had this experience. And it really sounds like you're able to touch culturally and learn so much more than just you did in the classroom.
And now we have a presentation from our curriculum department.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to share with you a little bit about some of the work we are doing in the district. I'm here tonight as the curriculum director, not as Edgewood Elementary principal, so I'm going to be wearing that hat. I did bring with me my resident expert here, Lauren Devine. She will be actually going through her slide presentation that we share often throughout the district or whenever we're presenting at conferences and whatnot. So without further ado, can I flip it or is? Okay. Lauren's going to talk to you a little bit about the reading brain, the application of the science of reading, and then we'll have some additional resources we're using. We're going to be expanding on this next week with our parent council. We're meeting next Thursday, so we're going to go through this, but we're also going to do some activities. We don't have those tonight because they're going to be more of an extensive process we're going to go through, but sharing with the community and that council will be working with us, and they'll have an opportunity to experience some of these things that we have done with our teachers, also with our administrators and admins. Some of the stuff that Lauren will share tonight, we've learned out through the past few years with administration and with our teachers. So without further ado, Lauren.
All right. Hi, I'm Lauren Devine. I'm a district literacy instructional coach. I have had the privilege of going through a lot of extensive training about the science of reading and how kids learn to read. So I feel very fortunate to be able to be knowledgeable about that and share it with the district. In 2000, the National Reading Panel came together to determine what do kids really need to be taught in order to know how to read. And that kind of sparked a lot of research around how kids learn to read. Even before that, we had some things happening, but this really solidified how things were happening, and that's where the science of reading term kind of came into play. Go and Tumner were two researchers who came up with the simple view of reading, and this is still heavily relied on today, almost 40 years later, which says that word recognition and language comprehension are multiplicative to creating strong reading comprehension. If you don't know how to read the words on the page, even if you could understand them, you're not going to be able to read them, and vice versa. If you can read all the words but don't know what they mean, you're not going to be able to read them or to understand what you read. So we'll kind of talk more about this as we go. That's kind of the base of all the science of reading research. Thanks to functional MRIs, in the past 20 to 30 years, there's been a lot of studies about how the brain actually works when a successful reader is reading versus when maybe a dyslexic or struggling reader is reading. We know that reading is not a natural process like speaking or listening is. Reading needs to be explicitly taught because our brains haven't adapted to know how to read. Written language is not as old as spoken language. So using functional MRIs, we know that successful readers utilize the left side of their brain. They have the frontal lobe has the phonological processor that recognizes sounds and produces sounds. And then the occipital lobe contains the orthographic processor that recognizes letters, symbols, that kind of thing. So the reading teacher's job is to connect the two so that you can connect the symbol to the sound. And once that is done successfully, that sound or the word is stored in the visual word form area, and you gain language comprehension. You can take meaning from the word. So I like to tell teachers when I'm working with them, reading teachers really are rewiring the brain. It's like brain science and what you're doing with these kids. So we want to make sure we're doing it right, so we're wiring the brain correctly. But there have been studies where you can see on a dyslexic student, both sides of their brain are working to read, and they're compensating because their brain is not wired the correct way to read fluently, successfully, easily. But after intensive intervention with correct intervention, you can see how it changes the way that their brain is thinking, which I think is super cool and such an honor that as educators, we can do that for kids. This is another way to kind of look at how that works. You have the phonological processor and orthographic processor that are connected through phonics instruction. And as you're probably aware, phonics instruction has kind of swung the pendulum recently. I think we're getting to a good place where we're right in the middle. But explicit systematic phonics instruction is really important to help create that strong wiring to know how to read fluently and successfully in the brain. And then you can kind of see the connections there, how it goes together, the phonological processor, the orthographic processor, the language comprehension goes with meaning and context for like multiple meaning words, and just what context is the text in or making meaning of that. So there's the quick and dirty brain research, but when it comes to actually growing readers and how we're teaching kids, that's like a whole nother level of how are we applying this research to the classroom. This graphic is called Scarborough's Rope. Dr. Lois Scarborough created it. She was actually a teacher, a primary school teacher, and developed this to show her parents the skills that kids need to know how to read, which I think is just amazing that she was able to do that as a teacher. But as you can see, if you think back to the simple view of reading, we have the components for word recognition and language comprehension. When we're doing both of those things successfully, we create strong reading comprehension. This kind of breaks down the skills that we need to teach in our classrooms to develop each of those components of the rope. So in word recognition, we're focusing on phonological awareness, which is building up the phonological processor. Decoding is how we're connecting the two, phonological processor and orthographic processor. And then sight recognition is being able to store those words and know them automatically. In language comprehension, we're focusing on background knowledge and vocabulary. Our vocabulary is one of the biggest things to create a successful reader who can comprehend. And then language structures, verbal reasoning, and literacy knowledge all go into that as well. We start with the structure of English and work our way up so that students can create meaning through reading. They definitely, it's not a continuum when you think about word recognition and language comprehension. They work together. Students start developing language comprehension as soon as they can start listening and talking as babies. So they're working together, but then when they get to school, we're starting to build up their understanding of the structure of English and the phonics so that they can create their own meaning through reading. In our classrooms, we focus on phonemic awareness and phonics. And then when you get to like the 412 space, it turns into advanced word study. Vocabulary is consistent K-12. It's a focus that we have. And then fluency, once students become fluent, you can't really be like a more fluent reader, but that's still something that is a point of assessment, instruction in the high school space. And then obviously comprehension, you can always become a better comprehender depending on what the background knowledge is that you have for the text that you're reading. So those are our big, if you break up phonemic awareness and phonics, our big 5 components of reading instruction. We've developed a literacy framework for the K-4 space and then the 512 space and kind of just what that instruction should look like and does look like in our classrooms. I think it's really cool in the 512 space, we've included all content areas. So even if you're teaching art or agriculture or science, you're still using some of these vocabulary and writing strategies. And then I've included these on this link, in these links, and just some more basics about the science of reading. Are there any questions?
Thank you for sharing. One question I had is, and I probably should know this answer, what are we using for phonics, specifically K3, for instruction?
So this year, last year we started piloting some products and some programs, resources, and this year, K2, we are using UFly, which is based out of the University of Florida. It's a foundational program for phonics. We also use Haggerty for phonemic awareness. That's also K1. And then we have adopted, we're in the process of vetting resources, but right now we use the program Into Reading in K through 6 this year. The state, obviously, with high quality instructional materials, the new law they passed, school districts have to implement certain products K5. And part of that is UFly is approved as a foundational program we can use, which we do. And then the other one, Into Reading, is what they call a core comprehensive program, which does have foundational pieces to it. And so that would be used at the 3 and above, 3 through 6 space, 3 through 5. The reason why we went with 2 is that we found really great levels of success with UFly. And so when we were looking at the programs, UFly was a program that teachers really liked. It's very, very structured. It's very scripted for them. When we talk about explicit, structured phonics instruction, that really fits the bill. And so those are the 2 things we're using district-wide this year. Where before that, we didn't really have, other than Haggerty was used in pockets for phonemic awareness, we didn't really have a consistent program per se that would have been like an approved. We were using iReady Teacher Toolbox, but that's less of a curriculum for the reading part. It's curriculum for math, and not so much as the reading. It was mostly just a supplemental piece that teachers would use.
I had another question, just the biggest shift maybe for the teachers or for the students, but I was thinking maybe elementary and then middle school, high school. What do you think the biggest shift is?
What do you mean?
Moving to the science of reading.
Oh, moving? Yeah. You know what? I'll let Lauren talk a little bit about that, but I know even before my time when, Steve Griffin was here as the literacy director, he was bringing, this has been that way I've been here 8 years now, and so he brought that knowledge with him when he came. We've just continuously developed it and grew it over time to the point now where you're right, what we do at the upper levels also apply to that. So we're monitoring this a lot more. When you look at the lower part of the rope, that's really important to be able to have those, phonics skills and be able to have the word recognition. And then we see our struggling readers when they get to that point. And really as an elementary principal, but also as an elementary teacher, if we're losing them in K1 space, if we're losing them and they're not growing that part of their brain, it becomes a struggle the older they get. And so that's why foundationally we really are focusing on that through our MTSS process, through our interventions with our reading specialists, how we can support those kids to make sure they're receiving, adequate, high quality instruction with high quality instructional materials. And that's the big shift this year. I think, sometimes it's hard to make those changes, but you'll see those changes occur at the upper levels. And so that shift will be seen a few years down the road, hopefully, where our teachers are seeing kids who are much more fluent readers. But yes, when we implemented the literacy framework, we're seeing a lot of shift. And as Lauren said, art class, science class, you're reading and you're doing those skills all the time. And I think before, teachers weren't necessarily realizing that, okay, this is actually a reading class too, because it is. And so that's become an emphasis in the district to make sure that up at those sort of courses, whatever it may be, social studies, science, art, agriculture, that we know that we are implementing those parts of our literacy framework at that level in those courses. And then finally, kind of when we think about one of the things we shifted to last year with, change is hard, obviously. Implementing this high quality instructional materials is difficult for teachers and everyone to have that change occurring. And it's a lot of change. But really also our reading block, we've increased our reading block from a 90-minute block recommended to a 120-minute block to fit the needs of those students who might have struggling, who are struggling readers or maybe struggling with that lower part of the rope, that word recognition.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Do you have human resources to take care of the students that are struggling at this point?
We get really creative.
Okay.
So the short answer, no. I mean, it's, my department's very small to begin with, as we know. And, we could always use more support, but, we do a good job scheduling things. One of the things that we've done in the district, again, I don't want to talk about Edgewood, but because I'm not here as the principal of Edgewood, but I will, we've implemented a program with early college high school students where they come over and they are tutors for us. We've been doing that now. This is my third year. We implemented it my second year as the principal there, and last year we found great success with that program. The first year we were kind of just dipping our toes into it, didn't really know, but we're teaching them the science of reading, teaching these high school kids what that means. And so when they go and work with our students, they actually have some background knowledge now, so they know why they're doing what they're doing. And we base it off of our U-Fly program too. So, whatever they're doing in the classroom, we're not having them come out and do something different. They're working on the same thing that teacher might be at in their curriculum at that point. Yes, of course. Lauren wants to add something.
So I would also say that it's been really great to see how implementing this program that is more scripted and structured has really educated teachers. So now teachers are more aware of this is why we teach this feature this way, and this is why this is like this. So then when they're assessing their students, they're able to have a better idea of exactly what that student needs because they're more knowledgeable about what it takes to be able to be a reader. So then with that, they're able to support their kids more, and we just have a stronger kind of base of support for the kids because they know exactly where to put that kid or who should be working with that student. And that's been a huge benefit for us as well, I think.
What group are you working with at early college, high school, and how do you find the time to train them?
So, well, I have to do a lot of delegation because I do have two jobs. So I have a fantastic instructional coach, Beth Lambert. So she and I got together, like I said, 3 years ago. I talked to the former principal there, who had been the former principal at Edgewood, and I said, hey, I got an idea. Can we do this? And he said, sure, we'll figure it out. So like I said, that first year was kind of just touch and go, but basically Beth brings them in. We work with the high school and Mark Fensel over there, who has taken on that program for us. He works with the kids. They created a course, and so these kids it's on their schedule. Each semester is different, the number of students we have. I think we only have 7 or 8 this year at the first semester, but there's a lot more signed up for second semester. And obviously we have to work with their schedule and our schedule, so it all depends on what grade levels they're working with my own building schedule and their schedule. But yeah, so Beth Lambert would bring the kids in, and then she works with them. She coaches them up, teaches them. They come in, they have a binder, so when they come in, it becomes just, they know exactly where to go, what to do, and they have a schedule of students they work with. Mm-hmm.
So do we have enough students to multiply that times all the elementaries?
We would love to. This year we don't at ECHS, but we've talked about it, maybe bringing MHS students into it and things like that. And so that's kind of, now that we've really gotten this program up and operational, that is definitely something that we would want to see happening. And like I said, last year was the first year we really used the science of reading and applied it with these students to give them that information. So they're not just coming in as, I'm going to sit and read with a kid. No, you're going to come in and do structured literacy with students, that, specifically what their needs are. But yes, we would love to expand that program. Right now, I don't have enough students to do that, but if we brought in the other high school, I think we could.
I think there's a strong interest too at the high school level to start a teaching and education pathway. Unfortunately, we don't have the staffing to do that right now, but the idea would be this could in fact be applied as part of a early learning experience towards that pathway. So that is something that is kind of on the back burner at this point, but I think we have strong interest from high school students to do that as well. So.
Well, I witnessed it last year on the building walkthroughs. I thought it was fantastic then. It sounds better tonight. So
I think it's great for all the kids. It's wonderful for the high school students, and it's wonderful for our students. So it's just it's a program I think should be scaled across the district. It's just a matter of, like, you know, Mrs. Allen said, we gotta have the process in place, and we have to have the resources.
So just one quick question, and this is focusing on the 512 literacy. So I love the fact that you're working on building vocabulary. Creekview did a really good presentation last year talking about how they were working on specifically building vocabulary. Background knowledge and spelling, those are wonderful, all needed things within the whole learning cycle. Does this still leave time for independent reading?
Do you want to answer that?
The high schools actually really grasped onto independent reading and choice read with the comprehensive literacy state development grant that we are now in the 6th year of the 5-year grant. They extended it, which is wonderful. We were able to buy a lot of texts for classroom libraries, and that was one thing teachers were very excited. Every year they got a stipend to continue building their classroom libraries, and I know they really focused on making sure they had time each period for students to just read and build a love of reading. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate the opportunity.
Yep. And now we have a presentation from Mark Gallagher.
Good evening. Oh, can you hear me? There we go. So I will be doing my annual local report card update, as well as the demographics update of the student body at Marysville schools this evening. And I'll cover several different things. I'll do an executive summary of our overall district performance. I'll go through individual building indicators and how our individual buildings performed. I'll also cover how we did with regards to achievement, gap closing, and then I will close out with an update on our student body demographics. So let's talk local report card. So as a school district overall, we will receive 4 stars on the overall rating indicator or component, which is consistent with how we performed last year. Specifically, we'll receive 4 stars for achievement, 2 stars for progress, also known as value added, 5 stars for gap closing. We will gain 1 star for K-3 early literacy, so we actually improved that indicator, and in our graduation rate, we received 5 stars overall as a school district. With regards to buildings, so I'll talk K-4 first. We actually have 2 buildings, 2 elementary buildings in our school district that receive 5 stars. They are also the 2 buildings in our district that receive 5 stars overall, and they are Edgewood and Raymond. And we maintained where we were with Mill Valley Elementary School. There was some growth with regards to the progress and K-4 early literacy indicator. But there was some impact to gap closing with Mill Valley. And then at Naven and Northwood, we actually lost half of a star overall going into this report card cycle. And that was predominantly influenced by the progress indicator and the gap closing indicator overall. And then at Raymond Elementary, I just wanted to point out, we had substantial improvement in the K-3 early literacy indicator, where they earned 2 stars last year, but they earned 4 stars this year. In 5 through 12, we actually lost a half of a star at Creekview Intermediate School and Buntsville Middle School. That was predominantly driven by impacts to the progress or value added indicator or component and gap closing. At MHS, though, we actually gained half of a star, which was driven by an improvement in the progress indicator by gaining 1 star there, as well as the gap closing indicator. And then at ECHS, they received 4.5 stars overall, which was consistent with how they performed last year. Okay, let's talk achievement. So overall, we continue to have an intermixing of improvement and strong performance in language arts, with substantive improvement in third grade for language arts. So 6% increase there overall. So kudos to our K through 4 buildings and those elementary teams. We saw some improvement marginally in fourth grade as well as fifth grade, and then we actually had some regression in grades 6, 7, and 8, predominantly in grades 6 and 8. We actually have rather strong performance in seventh grade. So yes, we did have a slight change to our performance there, but over 80% of our students are attaining proficiency or better. And what I can say about language arts is that based upon our current iReady reading diagnostic results, we expect to have a similar pattern of performance in the third grade this year and similar performances in grades 4, 5, and 7. And based upon the current cohort's historical OST data within the sophomore class, we look to reproduce our results in ELA2 with some improved performance there. But we absolutely, without question, have work to do within grades 6 and 8 in this organization. And we're in similar positions with mathematics as we are in language arts, and we're in similar starting positions now. And our improvement will ultimately be dictated by our planning and instruction in mathematics. And again, we have work to do in grades 6 and 8. So we had some marginal improvement in grade 3. We had some slight regression in grade 4, but overall we continue to have strong mathematics performance in fourth grade, some marginal improvement in grade 5, and then we had some substantive regression in grades 6 and 8, with some improvement in grade 7, but we still have work to do in grade 7 as well, with substantive improvement in algebra 1 and some marginal improvement in geometry overall. And then in science and social studies, so we had some substantive changes to our science performance overall. But we do have a blueprint for engaging in this work from our previous successes in language arts. And improvements ultimately going to be dictated by our implementation of this blueprint within the science department, specifically committing to regular assessment that's rigorous, it's scaffolded and tailored instruction, and different ways that we can meet the unique needs of our learners across the organization. One thing I did want to point out is we did get some strong improvement within American government this year. And I'll kind of cover both language arts and math here, but in both language arts and mathematics, we continue to exceed state annual measurable objective targets, which are performance index targets established by the state of Ohio for school districts across the state with regards to achievement in language arts and mathematics. And these targets continue to increase every single year. And while we do an incredible job meeting the needs of our diverse learners, we have work to do in order to better support our English learners and our students with disabilities. These targets are going to continue to rise, and we must continue to push our practice to meet the needs of our students in these areas. And that's how we performed in language arts is also mirrored in mathematics. We continue to meet or exceed every single annual measurable objective established by the state of Ohio. Okay. So I've included something called the S-curve of business this evening. And the S-curve of business is a sigmoid function for my mathematically inclined folks. And it is based upon the law of natural growth. Now, it's essentially predicated on the notion that a quantity grows or decays proportional to its size. Now, there's a method of my madness here. I'll get to it here in a moment. Just bear with me. And it's tied, that level of growth, right, tied to our proportional size, is in the business sector. It's tied to things like customer reach, the amount of resources I'm able to levy, things like that. So over time, business have various periods of growth tied to the resources available to them. Oftentimes there's development, periods of acceleration, and then continuation and stabilization of the business and organization. But what's interesting is eventually they reach a point where that S-curve can actually, that blue line can actually turn into a hyperbola, which is our nice little red dashed line there. And that typically happens due to a failure to acquire additional monetary resources and or human capital. So there's this intersection of these two potentials, an inflection point, if you will. So in education, this is indicative of our ability to grow and educate our students, quite frankly. There's this finite point where we reach a limit of what we can do given the resources that we currently have. So it's very likely that we're currently in an inflection point given that student enrollment continues to increase, but our human capital and our resources remain unchanged. So all that's to say that we've done well with what we have, quite frankly. We've significantly improved K through 3 early literacy. We continue to meet or exceed all of our annual measurable objectives for our underrepresented and marginalized students. We have an exceptional graduation rate here in this organization, but we have substantial work to undertake with regards to meeting the unique needs and strengths of our students. And it's going to take hard work to reach those new heights. And it's going to take hard work to specifically improve the value added or progress metric in this district. And this has been reiterated and put forth to our building administrators and our instructional coaches as a point of emphasis in the 24-25 school year. But this is going to be tough sledding territory, quite frankly, given the current resources and human capital landscape within the organization. So let's talk demographics. So who are we as a district? And I do this, like I said, every year, and we currently have 5,656 students overall. Whoops, I'm out of sync here a little bit. Sorry. 5,656 students. And back in the 17-18 school year, had 5,164 students. And we have a number of students that continue to be English learners that is roughly commensurate with where we were at this time last year, with a very small increase in that demographic. But one rather substantive change, and it continues to follow the pattern we followed for the last few years, as we continue to grow our number of students that are underrepresented and marginalized, specifically our students of color, where just over 1/5 of our student body is represented by a student of color in Marysville schools. And proportionally, our Hispanic students are the most represented ethnicity amongst our young people of color within the district. And there's been, again, that's our middle, whoops, guys. There you go. Can't wake it up. There we go. Thank you. So if you look at the blue bars in the middle of that chart, those are our students that are Hispanic. Okay. We've started to level off a little bit. We have some increase, but more or less have leveled off with our students living in non-traditional families. And these are students living in shared parenting, single parent homes, living with kin like aunts, uncles, grandparents, siblings, and even including foster placements. Our students that are homeless, that population has remained stable from the previous school year, so the same number as we did at this time last year. But we have seen a rather significant increase, and it's the single largest increase we've had among our students that receive free and reduced lunch in this district. So our students that are economically disadvantaged. We did see a slight increase in gifted identification, and this is likely due to incorporated gifting testing into the first grade during the 23-24 school year. So we've seen a slight increase amongst our gifted population. And we've started to finally start to see a slight reduction in our students that require academic and behavioral health intervention services in that K through 6 space. And it's likely due in part to our comprehensive work regarding literacy in that K through 6 space, as well as our mental and behavioral health prevention work that we engage in. Are students with disabling conditions. So this is representative of students that receive special education services and Section 504 Americans with Disability Act accommodation plans. And that disabling conditions data continues to accelerate overall. And just to give you a breakdown on that 1,470 for the current year, 1,157 students receive special education services in this district, and 313 students receive Section 504 accommodations at this time. And Section 504s cover everything from medical needs such as diabetes, having vital signs checked, things like that. Asthma, various allergies, those would all be eligible for Section 504 plans along with other disabling conditions. And we continue to see a rise in the number of students that require specialized therapeutic services as well. So if we look back at the 18-19 school year, we've had a 106% increase in the number of students that require occupational therapy services, 143% increase in the number of students that require physical therapy services, and a 14.5% increase in the number of students that require speech and language services. We have started to see a slight downtick in the number of students that attend school outside of Marysville schools. And these students include students that live in Marysville and they're open enrolled in another district. They received the John Peterson Scholarship. They were last residing in Marysville schools and they were maybe foster placed to another district or county. And it can also be due to a unique placement due to the special education needs of a child as well. And then my last one, factors. So when I say factors, I'm talking about a combination of free and reduced lunch, disability or Section 504 plan eligibility, receiving academic or behavioral health interventions, living in a non-traditional family structure, et cetera. And what we are looking at today is the continued pattern of where we were 1 year ago and 2 years ago, to a point now where, given the upward trend, nearly every student at Marysville schools has at least one factor that they live with at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
I had a quick question about your point of inflection document, and then reflecting back on the scorecard information. It seems where reductions were made at the middle school to save money, maybe had some definite impact on that 6th, 7th, 8th grade test results. Manpower equals
Outcomes, right? It very well could be, right? It could be a number of factors, but it would be hard to overlook that as a potential factor for influencing performance.
I also, I guess, wanted to comment on that formula. It's continuing to go up, but if it trends downward, it will take way more to get it to go back up than where we're at this current time, I think, from having studied that formula.
That is a fair assumption.
For gap closing in subgroups, what's the number of students necessary to be considered a subgroup for that building?
15 students.
15. How about for the district? Is it 30?
I would have to double check that.
Okay, but probably more than 15 for sure.
Yes, but I would need to double check that.
Just clarity around some data that you shared with the students receiving special education and then the intervention numbers. I assume the intervention numbers are lower than the special education numbers. I would assume that's students that are non-special ed, is that correct?
So on this particular chart right here, so the students who receive academic and behavioral health services in K through 6, that encompasses just K through 6 students and students with disabilities and Section 504 plans and those that do not. On the students with disabling conditions, that is a K through 12 chart here, and that includes both students who receive special education services and Section 504 plans.
Just to encourage you to keep digging into the data, like one component, I believe it was language arts, you saw a decrease in student achievement from one year to the next. I saw an increase because I like to look at a group of kids and how they perform over time, because that changes a little, but that factor of who's in those seats in the classroom is a big thing. So I saw your negative as a positive.
Fair enough. Always looking ahead, always looking to do more work. Yeah.
And maybe this is a question for you and Diane both, and maybe you've talked about it, but I'm looking for like biggest takeaways, one being positive and one being a delta or an opportunity to improve.
I think certainly a point of pride is improvement in algebra, high school math. That it has been a very targeted focus for some time, and to see that jump, and that was by design. I mean, there were significant shifts with teachers to that area, very targeted. So I think that would be one thing that pops out to me. I think the improvement with K-3 Lit is an area that we've focused on, and something that we're going to continue. I even said in my letter to parents, is focusing on progress, right? We need value added has historically been a point of strength for our district. It seems post-COVID, we've not trended back to that. So really digging down and understanding, how we're moving that individual kid from where they are, a year and beyond, moving forward. I would say that's a target for all of us.
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate, our performance on the K-3 early literacy indicator should absolutely be a point of pride in this organization. Another is how we perform with regards to the annual measurable objectives on the gap closing measure of our local report card. We do an extraordinary job of meeting the diverse needs of our students here, regardless of what those are. We're going to continue to push that practice as we move forward into time. In terms of what to improve, it really is about value added and how we meet the individual needs and strengths of our students where they're at, and continue to push them to new heights educationally as they matriculate throughout this school district.
Thank you.
Just a quick point of clarification. So on the English language learner slide, you're showing maybe 136?
It was 140. That would have been last year. Yeah, 141 this year. Yep.
Okay, but when you go and look at the demographic slides, the number of people in the green bar is substantially larger. So is there no, how do they get off the English language learner list? Since there's 548 Hispanic students.
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay, I'm with you now. So students, in order to be eligible for English learner services, have to go through an English screening, essentially. It's OELPA, or OELPS. OELPS is the acronym for that one. And then they have to reach a certain level of conversational proficiency, not necessarily academic language proficiency, but conversational English proficiency to be dismissed from English learner services.
And so a challenge with that it means that you're not necessarily a fluent English speaker at that time. So that's who you will see the students who are still receiving service in the slide you're looking at now, and the former slide would be anyone who is identified as Hispanic that
Correct.
is in the district.
Correct.
And I don't mean to specifically pick on Hispanic population, but I'm just concerned from what I've kind of seen is that just because you reach a certain level of conversational doesn't mean you can read and you're capable of, doing grade level work. So it's a challenge for our district, and I think we have three ELL.
English, yeah, teachers of English as a second language, yes.
But are they primarily focusing on the 130?
Yes, that is who they serve, yep.
Okay, so there's 400-ish kids out there that the average classroom teacher is going to have to help service, correct?
Potentially. Just just because I identify as Hispanic does not mean this is my first year in country.
That's true.
I might be
That's
a third
absolutely true.
yeah, I might be a third generation, family. Quite frankly. This is one thing I will point out, though, with our English learners in particular, there are a number of them that also receive systematic reading intervention as well, aligned to the science of reading. So something I always tell folks is, what does a struggling reader and an English learner have in common? Well, they're both learning the conventions of the English language. Right, at the end of the day. So that's a great way for us to help support the English needs of those students. Even if they're dismissed from English learner services, they continue to receive reading intervention services with us if their data dictates that they require that. And I can actually, again, as a point of pride here, I'm gonna go back to language arts really quick at ELA 2 and highlight that, because we do have a significant number of young people in our 9 through 12 space, out of that 141 that are English learners in the 9 through 12 space, and we still perform at a very high level in 9 through 12 with those learners, even providing explicit reading intervention for them.
Great job.
We try. We're here to serve.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now we're up to the treasurer's report. Or did I skip something? Oh,
Skipped me.
sorry.
That's all right. I thought I would run through and highlight several things. We had a Let's Talk town hall meeting held here earlier this week. We had about 25 community members attend, and great conversation about facts related to our upcoming November issue. The next one will be October 21st. We'll be hosting here again at 5 o'clock. And also, Todd and I have several community organizations and events on our calendars for the next several weeks as well, related to providing facts to the community. Mark presented the report card information. We sent a communication out to families. To Mr. Keller's point, value added is definitely that area of focus across the district. We're working with principals and coaches and teachers around that. Also, next week, we're really excited, is our very first parent council meeting. So we have quarterly meetings established. The first one is next Thursday. As you know, we had a great response. So we have basically split those groups up into the 4 areas of our strategic plan. And so all of those groups will be meeting in this building somewhere on that evening. So excited to get that started. I wanted to remind everyone that next week is also the homecoming parade. So if you have not received information about that, the homecoming parade route is a little bit different than normal because of construction. I also thought I would give a quick transportation update. We have had much improvement since our last meeting. As you know, we did not have the smoothest start with transportation in the school year. As we discussed, quite frankly, a former set of data was used to populate the routes, and that mistake was not discovered until the very beginning of August. So at this point, we're still trying to work on some connections, or I maybe say disconnect issues between TransFinder and the app that parents have. We have several trouble tickets in to try to clear those up. And we're trying to figure out challenges with people in the app. We have one bus, that's bus 37, that is arriving to Creekview in the afternoon after the Bunzel route, about a half hour late. We're still working on that. The solution for that will probably impact about 6 other routes. So the idea would be to kind of move some students and to reduce time on that bus in order to make it a more efficient route, and we can get on time to pick up those students from Creekview to get them home a little bit quicker. Parents that are on bus 37 from Creekview received a communication from transportation outlining that, and a resolution forthcoming on Sunday that was shared with them as well. We did hold a recruiting event last weekend. We had 4 people show up. 3 of those 4 were Lynette is working with to try to onboard. Just remind everyone, it is a lengthy process. There is an assessment that we start with. I was informed that I think we have a potential new sub this week, which will help where we are currently with our staffing level as well. It's tight in the transportation department with drivers. Let's see. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Just want to be clear, is there a homecoming float for the board?
There is not, unless you want to put one together. I might know someone who would have a truck and a trailer, right?
Yes, but I won't be in.
I was thinking maybe a subcommittee on that. Anyway, treasurer's report now.
Okay, for my report, one of the main challenges when it's levy time is making sure people have the facts and they have information. There's a lot of misinformation floating around. So one of the tools that we have to attempt to make sure everybody has a chance to see the facts is our website. So I'm not gonna hit everything on here, but just hit some highlights. And this is a tool you can use, or when you're talking with people, this is somewhere you can point them to. We tried to answer as many questions as possible on here. So when you go to the school website, you're automatically going to be asked if you want to go check out the Let's Talk levy facts information page. So if you click on that, it takes you to the levy page. A couple things on the right that I'll highlight. One, we always try to point people to the levy calculator. There's always a lot of questions about, how much is this levy going to cost me? So I'll show that on here, and we gave some instructions there at the bottom. Try to make it as simple as possible, but again, when you're talking numbers, there's always ways that people confuse it. You can just type in the number up here, and again, we talk market value here. So, what is your home worth, or what do you think you would sell it for? That's the number that we're talking about here. You can find that on the county auditor website. So if your home's worth $300,000, you just type in the 300,000, hit enter, and it spits out the number for you. So it does all the math in the background. You don't have to worry about changing the market value down to assessed value or anything like that. So that's a good tool. A lot of questions we get about the contingency plan. What if the levy fails? So that's down there. All you need to do is click on that link there, and it takes you to all that information. This here is a one-pager that we've created to try to get as many facts on a one-page document. That's actually on the back table there, and that's one that we've been handing out at our Let's Talk meetings. Has a lot of good information. If somebody really wants to, dig in and listen to the details, we've got a couple presentations there. I did find out that, if you're a really good multitasker, you can actually watch both of those at the same time. But that will really get into the details, if you really want to find out more information. So there in the middle, a couple things I'll hit there. We've got a lot of FAQs. Why does the district need additional revenue? I think this is one of the main things that I like to point out for people. And also good to note there, we have links that'll just point you right to the facts. So, we're not making up any information. This is all coming directly. This one comes directly from the Ohio Department of Education. This one shows that our revenue per pupil is only $12,170 compared to a state average of over $17,000. So our revenue per pupil is $5,000 less than the state average. And then we also listed there the 25 Central Ohio school districts, and we're at the very bottom on revenue per pupil compared to Central Ohio as well. So across the state, we're in the bottom 2%. Same thing for expenditures. Again, that comes directly from the Ohio Department of Education. We've got the link there where you can go confirm that. Again, we're $2,500 less expenditure per pupil than the state, so we're in the bottom 19% there. And then again, we also have this graph comparing to Central Ohio schools, and we're at the third from the bottom there on expenditures per pupil. And also, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank our tech department, mostly Tom Powers, for doing a great job in putting this together. This is all done in-house. Several other questions there. I won't hit them all. Also, I think another good one to look at is, what's the bang for your buck? And this shows you've got a link there for the state report card. We've got the graph down there that shows our performance index. We're in the top 16.5% in the state, well above the state average. And then further down, this was just some very basic facts about an emergency levy. Again, I won't go through those, but if you just click on those, it'll bring up answers. And then further down, there's some additional information there. And then also you can click over here to get more information about the contingency plan. I think that's it. If there's any questions.
Where will we be when we pass the levy in third from the bottom?
Well, when it comes to, I haven't calculated where we would be revenue per pupil. When it comes to tax rate, right now we're second from the bottom. We're the second lowest. I think we'll probably move up to about the maybe fourth or fifth lowest still. I think with the revenue per pupil, we're still going to be in the bottom 15%.
Okay.
Anything else? Nope, thank you.
And now we're down to my report, which is very minimal. A bunch of us were at last night's OSBA dinner, and we missed you. And had a good meal there, and got to recognize Lynette and Steve for that. And then Sunday was a coffee here in the building, and Matt and Nan have anything to say on that? Or
So we had two people come to the community coffee. One gentleman shared a lot of information about his experience with the district and other districts. He substitute teaches, and so he's had kind of a broad-based knowledge of what's going on in many Central Ohio schools. And he was just concerned about what's going to happen in the future when, we don't have as many personnel in the building, and what is going to be the impact, and how can we make sure that each child is being talked to individually and their needs are being met. And then also he had some kind of amusing stories to talk about with regard to interacting with some of the students. And then he had a suggestion for a student board representative or a student steering group, and I told him that that is actually under development currently. So we'll stay tuned. And then we also had a second person that had some concerns about LifeWise Academy, and heard that their concerns about that. And we had a nice two-way discussion, I'd say.
Okay. And student achievement, we're passing on that, is that right?
Yes, I think our Yori trip and our presentation by Mr. Gallagher is enough for us this evening.
And we're down to the legislative report.
Yeah, I'm going to pass on that tonight because I think two of us, there's a legislative report given at the conference last night, or the dinner last night, and I can send out an email for safety as well.
Okay.
No report tonight.
And that takes us to approval of the draft minutes. No, we have a drug and safety report. Is that, pass on that? Okay, draft minutes. Need a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been properly moved and seconded that we approve the draft minutes from the previous meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Keck?
Yes. Okay. And then we have some Board of Education items that were recommended to approve policy. Is that this a second reading? So any, well, first of all, we have to have a motion, don't we?
Yes.
So
moved.
and a second?
Second. Sorry.
Been properly moved and seconded that we approve these items. And assuming that everybody's read them, they seem to be very, what do I want to say, rudimentary cleanup of language. So, any questions? All those in favor?
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Ms. Savage? Yes. Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Keck?
Yes. And let's see here. We need a motion to approve the calendar for next year, 25-26 school calendar, instructional time adjustment resolution. Waiting for a motion.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded. Did you have any highlights on that you wanted to?
I would just say we used the feedback that all of you provided and that Mrs. Shepherd provided. There were still some challenges with obligations we have with the teacher's contract on days to provide at the end of a grading period, but certainly worked to kind of reduce the amount of fragmented weeks in this version. So it's a pretty good first step in that direction and provides ample time. It also provides a little more time at the beginning of the school year, to Mr. Keller's point last month about being able to have drivers in, call parents, run our routes as well. So it gives a little extra time for that as well.
Good deal. Any other discussion?
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Keck?
Yes. And then we need a motion to recommend the approval of the OPSI memorandum of understanding for field trip assignment process.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
And just give a little bit feedback. So in the course of our discussions at the beginning of the year, one of our challenges has been the bidding process for field trips. One of the challenges is currently the process by contract is drivers receive the trips on Monday and bid for Wednesday, but some of those trips are Wednesday night. So it doesn't seem to make sense. So the idea is that you're actually going to bid for the upcoming 2 weeks and have a better, process for the future. So you're not bidding for the same night that you could potentially take a route. Because the rest of those routes show empty. So when the athletic department calls and says, who's covering Friday? Well, we don't have anyone covering Friday because we haven't bid on those yet. So it'll make a better process for everyone.
Good. Any questions? All in favor?
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Keck?
Yes. And then we need a motion to approve all the treasurer's action items.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
A couple item highlights I'll point out. On the cash flow, a couple variances we have. So we just got our second half real estate tax collection, so we get that twice a year. This is the second half because it's the second half of the calendar year, even though it's the first half of our fiscal year. So we'll get the next one in probably around March or so. What we've gotten so far has come in a little less than what we had projected. So we are on the top line of the cash flow, the 1.01 real estate taxes. We were about $215,000 less than projected. That's mainly due to clawback from the city of Marysville. So you may remember there was I believe it's called Woodside. The TIF paperwork wasn't filed timely there, so we were already receiving real estate tax from that entity, and then when they did eventually turn in that paperwork, the county auditors then forced to basically take that money back. So that's the top line. Then line 1.02, that's our public utility personal property taxes. So that one actually came in about $379,000 less than projections. I don't have the answer yet as to why that one is low, because it's really a simple calculation. So when it comes in less, that usually means there's a delinquency, some entity that's not paying. So still working on that. So far about $600,000 less than projected for the fiscal year. So we'll have an update when we get to the next month with the 5-year forecast. Also, the amounts and rates are on there for approval. We do that annually, just a compliance thing we have to do, that we get those from the county auditor. Oh, and I did want to note, thanks to Jermaine, he did point out there was an error in the last graph that's on this financial document that you get on the cash flow. It doesn't change the financials, it's just the graph, those percentages. So I did update that. So if you looked real close, you might see that the percentages changed a little bit on that last page.
Any questions? Oh, go ahead.
I just have one question about the school safety grant carryover. Are there any projects or pending to be done with that this year?
I believe it's all, the money I believe is all spoken for. I couldn't tell you exactly what all it is, but I believe that money's all encumbered on purchase orders.
Okay. And I just wanted to thank NEX for their donation, their grant, and also the Union County Foundation and the Timken Corporation for their donations to our students.
As a reminder, the foundation, that's the fundraiser that took place in the summertime.
Is that money dedicated to transportation or?
Supplemental coaches and
Oh,
transportation.
Okay. Cool. Anything else?
Nope, that's it for me.
All those in favor?
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Keck?
Yes. And that takes us to the next item, to approve me as a volunteer in the high school. And I'll be abstaining from that, but we will need a motion for that.
I'll motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded that I be approved as a volunteer. Any discussion? You have some? For my previous assignment, yes.
I am curious, Bill, do you have one of those continuing teacher licenses, like meaning you never needed to renew it?
Right, I do.
Wow.
One of the last ones.
Yeah.
Those are rare. I'm going to sell it, at the end. In any case, and I have been through the FBI and whatever else, BCI background check. So in any case.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Keck?
Abstained. All right, and then we have other superintendent actions. Recommend to approve all superintendent actions listed below. Actually, it says above, but I think it's below.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
The only thing I would really highlight, 2 retirements, Lisa Feldman, who's been in the district 34 years, teacher at Bunzo Middle School, and Rich Taylor's custodian at Early College High School after 23 years with the district. So wish them well in their next steps of their journey.
Great. Do we have a retirement ceremony for them coming up, or?
It's always in May, so we
Okay,
asked them
all right.
to, she's not retired, Lisa isn't retiring till the end of the school year, actually, but we'll have our retirements in May.
Great, great. All in favor?
Yes.
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 Yes. And that takes us to our comments and questions from board members. And did we start with you last time, Jermaine? I can go. Okay, go ahead.
I just want to thank everyone for their hard work in our district and wish everyone continued success.
I'd like to say thank you to each of the groups that came and presented tonight. I love seeing their love and passion of their Japan trip, and also the dedication that all of our staff puts into their material that they presented. So I just want to do a quick shout out to especially all the elementary schools. As the year started off, they were all busy putting together their themes, embracing kindness, developing growth, celebrating achievement, enduring and persisting through challenges. They're setting up house systems and building camaraderie within the schools, community. They're talking about their habits of mind and setting behavior expectations and implementing packs and zones of control. It's nice to see all that activity happening at the elementary level.
And I just had a short one, and, I'm sorry. Left Matt out. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You're fine. A big thank you to all the levy committee volunteers. I've heard a lot of positive for their efforts and those leading that. There were some here tonight. Just less than 2 months away till we're voting on that. So thank you to them. Also, it's been great to see just a rhythm to the school year for our community. And that's very encouraging to see all the good things going on.
And I just wanted to say I've been guest speaking at the high school this week, and the one thing, and it's been wonderful. The one thing that I've seen that's a positive, big positive, seems to be quite a attitude change with the students being positive this year. I don't remember a time when I was actually thanked for my teaching when I was teaching, but I was, now and encouraged to come back. And, I think that speaks highly of our students, and most of them haven't got a clue who I was or anything about it. So I really, and I heard that from a couple of teachers, at the other end of the building from the ag department. Don't want to, they were saying the same thing. The attitude from the students is much more positive over last year. Nobody's quite sure why that is. Hope that's the same sentiment across the district at this point in time. And that's all I have to say. Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
That should be you.
So moved.
I'll second.
It's been probably moved and seconded that we adjourn at this time.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes. Thank you very much.